JJ and I, of course, we've been doing this for quite a while, and we have a pretty, I think different approach than what the meta is having us do for the sport of Messer right now. So we're going to go over this in terms of the edge method for educating, demonstrating, guiding, and then enabling you to practice what it is that we've taught. So, we have two different Messers here. We want to go over the features of the weapon right quick. For those of you who don't do a lot of Messer, this is going to be probably some good information to have. For those of you who have done Messer, it's going to be nothing new. Now, these are completely different Messers. JJ here, if we just put them on the ground, has a longer blade, but a shorter handle, and has a traditional nagel, whereas I have the ring. There are pros and cons to each of these features of the weapon. We're going to go over the three main ones here. Reach, mass, the first one, reach is the first one, and then of course we'll talk about mass and defense. So the reach, of course, we want to make sure we reach our target before they can reach us with a nice thrust or a nice cut. But sometimes a shorter weapon actually has a lot more finesse, and you might sacrifice mass to do that, but you can have a shorter Messer that has mass to get good cuts, displace, get those Zornhaus, or whatever the equivalent is in the Kukner. We're going to go over the archetypes as well here. What kinds of fighters you'll encounter. There is a fourth type of fighter. We have three main ones. The fourth type of fighter is a guy who reads too much Messer. So we don't read a whole lot of Messer, but we do glance over it and we see the main treatises from the Kukner, and we want to adapt them into the modern meta. So you'll see us do things and have the wrong terminology. Trust me, it's not lost on us. We're not reinventing anything really. It's just hard to have a new concept in the 21st century. But we're not going to be able to go into the German definitions of what we're teaching. So, yeah, reach. Yeah, I could possibly reach him before he reaches me with a thrust if I go all the way to the pommel. But of course, I will if he smacks my blade out of the way. It's much harder for me to react than it is if I'm choked up. I have a lot more pivot here because I have a counterbalance on this pommel. This is the new VB model. JJ, yours is Ensifer. Now, how old is that model?
Quite old.
Quite old? Yeah, you can tell by the wood. That thing has gone through some stuff. And if you watch our fight in Combat Con, you'll see how different we are using these. His Ensifer hits a lot harder than mine, but I can move a little bit faster. I can do lots of actions. I don't have as much reach as him when I'm using this as it's meant to, while using that counterbalance.
And I use mine mainly as a casting.
I don't believe that the mass is as much of an issue because I have a good bit of defense. The ring guard can provide a little bit more defense if you use it correctly. If I come into a thrust-centric guard, of course he might be able to cast it right into that ring if he's lucky. Right into the ring. It's hard if he's got that rubber tip on there, but of course he was able to do it on the first try that I actually asked him to do it, because he's that kind of guy. So why does each one of these matter? Yeah, you want to reach your opponent before they reach you. You want to be able to give an action that they have to deal with. So say someone is coming into a proper saber guard, and I want to cut into them. If I don't have a lot to really work with this weapon, I have to really use the strong of my blade if I want to do anything worth reacting to. It's a lighter Messer. His is quite heavy, and I have to have very good structure if he throws a cut at me.
Throw a cut at you?
Go to you, do it.
At your head?
Yeah. Has to be like that. It's right there. I could not make that parry at the middle, let alone the weak. Other Messers like the Gunther from Landscadet Emporium could do that. And actually, if you have a Gunther, thank you, my son. The Gunther is actually deceptively light for a weapon that has so much mass, a very wide blade. Another thing is, it might have a standard nagel, but this is actually a lot of defense because of the mass that it has. The Gunther that I used, I would actually do a lot better job of half-handing my Messer. Because I would use the flat to protect my palm, and then go into the half sword. We'll go over that in a little bit. So all of these things, you might sacrifice one for the other. That's okay. You're going to have to use these features to complement your own fighting style. I said we weren't going to do too much talk about the actual sources, but there is one thing that I really liked about LeCoupner when I was doing my homework on this. LeCoupner says to use what decorates you the most. What does he mean by that? It means work on what you are good at. There are so many different approaches to this weapon that work and can edify the masters, as he says. You can have a thrust-centric style, a cut-centric style, or a grapple-centric style. What do I mean by these? Well, people have different backgrounds coming into this weapon. It's quite rare to encounter a fighter that only does messer. And usually you can spot them in the crowd.
Or they'll tell you.
Yeah, they'll fucking tell you. So, what is most common, I would say, is the cut-centric fighter. You have a lot of messer fighters that go, or sorry, a lot of saber fighters that go into messer. And of course, if we go to guard, they'll just come out like this. They'll give you the hanging parry. They might have a thrust-centric guard, but you know they're gonna use saber against you.
Always.
Oh yeah, they're gonna bait high and then cut that leg and parry out. The next most common would be the grapple-centric fighter. And these are guys that I would say are most likely to have some of the sources down. They know some of the binding and winding. So say I want to, oh gosh, go ahead and just give a slow cut. You know, they'll actually use their thumb grip, you know, doing lots of actions
Give me a hook.
oh that.
Or no, hook with the guard.
Oh yes, of course. They'll actually use their pommel a little bit more, although that's inspired by so many other weapons, of course. And then you'll get guys that probably don't do a whole lot of messer, but they're willing to give it a try, and they'll use what they're good at, which is the thrust. Now, how do we spot these guys, aside from them obviously telling us, like, support their archetype? Well, I'm gonna put on my glove here. And how do you spot these guys? Cut-centric fighters, of course. They're going to take very normal saber guards. They're going to have this outward parry here. They're not going to be too tip-heavy because they know there's not a whole lot they can do at that reach. They want to close those distances, parry or toss, get out clean. They know that their offhand, if their opponent is adopting the same tactic, is very likely to get cut off. There's a very, I don't know, it's charming to see someone actually approach the saberist with the goal of grappling and then actually like succeeding in that. That is, to me, that's talent. It's incredibly difficult. And that's why we have this flow chart here of which is more likely to counter the others. There's always going to be an exception to these rules. But in a sense, a cut-centric fighter will most likely beat a grapple-centric fighter, and a grapple-centric fighter will most likely beat a thrust-centric fighter. Why do I say the thrust beats the cut? Because they have usually an MOF background. They're really good at rapier. They have excellent footwork. Go into a saber guard right quick. They could easily snipe that hand and get away, and there's no real chance to bind with them. They have good voids. And some saberists, or sorry, some rapierists also know how to cut. They might not be doing saber, but you know, say I make the thrust at JJ's chest and he makes a hard parry. Well, I can get that cut and then, you know, give my whole point and reach and look so proper. That's not messer necessarily. But saying that kind of takes away from the purpose of messer because it's just a knife. How you use it is always going to be up to you. What is messer? Messer is getting out clean no matter what. So I'm kind of going to contradict myself on that statement. It's not really messer, but what is messer? It's what you make it. So we're going to go over some of the moves here of these archetypes real quick. For the cut-centric fighter, which is the most standard version and honestly the easiest to understand, we want to talk about your follow-ups. So when you come into distance with your opponent, I might be prepping to guard my head, because JJ obviously is doing a cut-centric guard here. It's also somewhat grapple-centric, but we'll go over that in a minute. So he's chambered to cut at my head, and if he does it, I just do the standard parry or toss, but he knows what to do. He's going to parry to what is most likely attack from the hanging parry. So it is here, here, here. You keep going. The follow-up is imperative to a cut-centric style. When you just make one action, you're inviting them to just answer in their own way and then give their own riposte. They're controlling the fight then at that point. If you want to control the fight, you have to give rapid input. It is violence of action. The cut-centric fighter gives lots of cuts, and it makes it near impossible for someone to try and do a half sword at you. So say like, you throw that cut at me, yeah, I'm gonna try and close in, do the rapid, yeah, I'm gonna get cut in the torso most likely. They're going to parry, cut, and probably void out. That last cut, by the way, cut, likely if I hit my target, it bounces off and I can go to here, and it's a clean exchange. I get those points that I need. So, follow-ups. Best way, when someone takes the high line, which is most likely in this, is of course, do the standard. It is okay to do what is instinctual for us. This is a natural weapon, same as a saber. But if I do this, that arm is very vulnerable right there. If I can, I'll do an undercut, which, do the guard for it. Now, I can still hit that hand. If you are taking these cuts, or sorry, it's here, I cut here. Yeah, so a good master fighter will retract and go low to protect that hand instead. To about there. No different than in saber if you are going here and then here. If you are here, you will go here. It takes too much effort, it's too much travel to go from here to here. When you can simply just do this to this. It's much faster. So, going from a high, staying high, low, high, side. The rapid input doesn't need to be too planned. It's like if you fire by volley, as opposed by firing at will. If you try and send as much attacks at the same time as you can, you're going to overwhelm the defenses and you're likely to get a hit. JJ, are there any follow-ups that you'd like to go over for the cut?
None of the cuts more years ago.
Yeah, just if you watch our final, our gold medal match at CombatCon, you'll see I'm doing a lot more cuts than JJ does. But JJ ends up going from grapple to thrust to cut. He adapts, he transitions, which is very important. We'll go over that in a moment. So, the grapple. JJ, I'm gonna let you start this one.
Okay, so for the grapple, it's very important that you are initiating your attack with something that you want to be able to present yourself in a way that your opponent knows, hey, I have to address myself. You want to show them, I am coming this way, and you have to acknowledge this.
Yeah, that chamber cut, I have to answer that.
Or you are maybe you just kind of do like a preparatory, like, just let them know I'm coming this way. If you don't, and they take a different line, you double. You both die. So you want to be able to get them into a position where I'm coming this way. You better address it. And then when you throw it, you want to immediately be chasing with your offhand. Press to the sword, to the wrist. You want control. But it is very quick. You have to be traveling behind it. And a lot of people really don't think about it, but if you have your hand behind your sword, it's safe. Like just, hey here, swing it with the sword. I'm fine. And
I'll hit a little bit harder
yeah.
again too.
And if he hits me hard enough, now I'm half sworded.
Right.
Huh.
He pushes it into my hand, now I'm even more structured. And then I can get that nice control on it.
That's
Question.
good. Yeah, you did that same thing to me yesterday, and it worked very, very well. When you did it to me, your hips and shoulders felt more, like MOF, flash sort of thing. Like,
Yep.
I felt like I lost the profile of you, but in your demo here, you were coming in a bit more squared. Is that intentional? Was there a thought process behind that?
either one is fine. It just depends on the moment and your footing at the time. A lot of times you can't. You just have to make do with what the situation provides itself.
Yeah.
You're not always going to have the picture, picture perfect.
I'll tell you what, if you get 100 passes with JJ, it'll happen eventually.
Yeah.
Look, it's happened to me. If it happened to me, it can happen to you.
But yeah, just trusting that the sword will defend you. That this is a safe place. Honestly, though, I do like to keep my fingers safe, so keep your hand back, nice and protected with your clamshell, hopefully. And then once you come into contact, then you turn. Get that grab. And then once you have that grab, then you have a ton of options from there.
Now we have a different approach, a little bit. It's not too different. So while JJ preps at a distance with his offhand, there are times I will take other guards and be ready as such. This is no different than this in terms of making a fool's guard. So if I have my hand out here and he wants to snipe that hand, I now have invited him to come in to my measure, and my hand is already out here, so now I can get away from my blade, the danger zone, and get to a grapple that I want. In the moment, snipe for the hand again. I will probably not be able to wrap or get a good grab of his hand, but similar to rapier, all I need to do is push it away and get my cut.
And that's all creating that little window is long enough for them not to be able to get back.
Another thing when it comes to hand control specifically, anybody who has a wrestling background like Sam here, knows that hand control is so important when you're at an equal scenario. So make the cut in the head. Is just parry and then immediately using your passing step to put your weight into your opponent's arm, grabbing at a joint that is dictating much of what their sword can actually do. So the wrist or the elbow. The shoulder isn't going to do much unless you get all the way by here. If you can see, we'll rotate a little bit. About to here, well, yeah, I could send him this way and then cut him. But that's pretty hard to get that far around your opponent, especially when you don't have legs going all the way to Wisconsin like mine. So legs for days, baby. So the cut, it is countered by a grapple-centric fighter. The grapple will take out the thrust-centric fighter, someone who, sorry. Yeah, the grapple takes out a thrust-centric fighter. So if I am going to make a thrust at you, it's much more risky with that.
How I usually deal with it, if you are thrusting, is to counter cut into it. So if you're thrusting it, counter cut up to arm, and then just bring the sword in. Also, it can lead to very nice disarms that way too.
Yeah, if I want to get the grapple on someone who is cutting at me, I have to adopt a cut-centric style in terms of parrying in order to get that grapple. I have to do what they're doing. Saber v. saber is an equal battle, yes.
In that last pass, JJ, I noticed that you did your defensive cut directly to his strong, right?
Yes, I was actually just going to cover that. Yeah, that is how you as the grappler, that is
so
the
you
target.
don't displace him too much?
Yeah. What's that?
So you don't displace your opponent too much?
Yeah, I'm trying to just put him offline enough. So yeah, if you're coming in, I am trying to attack basically right here.
Gotcha.
And then come in so that I can, and with that chasing action, like that.
So gives you control, yeah, if you
Yeah.
just displace them, they have a chance to do something.
Gotcha.
Or even if I can even just attack a little further in, as long as I'm trying, you can see on my sword, I'm doing a lot of my cuts right here. And I'm trying to attack the middle, basically the middle. I try not to go for the weak, because then if I go for the weak, here's what can happen. Half the weak, he comes off.
Yeah.
I lose.
The Saberist is going to keep that good medium distance. The thrust-centric fighter will go a longer distance than that. Grapple-centric fighter wants to get rid of that distance. So yeah,
I want to lock him up really close to his guard.
a good saber fighter, might do the normal saber parry that you see in some saber manuals, particularly like the Eastern European ones for that. But if I just want to keep it nice and safe, it's just that.
Yeah.
It's nothing fancy. A cut to the hand disarms the guy, and a lot of Messer tournaments aren't awarding too many
Yeah,
more points.
That's the main reason, like, why we're saying that the cut beats grapple is the fighter will just not allow that to happen.
Yeah, there's just the right amount of disengage.
Whereas if somebody's going for a thrust, that gives you a nice chance to just go right for that target, that sweet spot that I'm talking about, to displace and then get in there and close.
And the only way, sorry.
I noticed when you did that cut, it was almost like you were cutting obliquely into, as opposed to like perpendicularly to his cut.
Mhm.
Was that intentional?
Yeah, I'm trying to find the blade. Well, I'm also trying to cross the center line
Mhm.
with it, so I'm cutting across to seal that center and catch it as deep as I can, so that then I can do the grab, or even just kind of counter cut or thrust him.
Cool, thank you.
There's a lot of transition area in between the grapple and thrust. Those two work together very well. And yeah, because if you do your thrust right, you should also be clearing your opponent as well, and just having that wherewithal to use your offhand to get those grabs.
Show them your winning move real quick.
Winning one, I think that was this one.
Ooh.
Can you do that again?
I blinked. That was right here, and come in.
It can go to the other side. Actually, even if it goes on that side, it still works. Because now I can't do anything, can I? On the other side, once more,
That is most sneaky.
and it slides up from the strong to the weak, taking advantage of that angle of attack.
And if Sam is, even off on that side, I'm covered from all
Yeah, my
sides.
guard, my hand might hit his hand, but it's nothing good.
Yeah.
So it's gumming up any attack I might be able to do. Let's go over the thrust now. How do I make the thrust work? Well, I'm going to, especially if he's in a saber guard, like a proper saberist guard, I'm going to snipe at that hand. What is he going to do naturally if I snipe at the hand? He's going to retract it, right? Or he's going to try and do a parry. And now I need to feint if I'm going to try and get that in. Work on your feints for your thrusts. It is incredibly hard to get them on a deep target with this weapon. You have to get very close, and at that point, you better be good at cutting.
You will never get a leg strike without understanding the feint.
Yeah, absolutely. That's no different than any British or Scottish approach to the cut-centric style. So it's just like a cut or a high, a thrust or a cut high, feinting to leg. So if I go here and cut the leg, if I can. And notice how every single time I've made an attack, I'm just getting away as best I can. I, of course, want to protect my back as I'm exiting the engagement. But once you've made that hit, disengage.
Yes.
There's no sense in staying this close if you're not. Yeah, there's so much. That's a coin toss at that point.
Yep.
Because he might be able to get that thrust in me, but maybe I get my back edge onto his head.
Yeah. And we're both dead.
That's not the point of this sport, is it? So,
Yeah. Self-preservation. If you are not controlling the situation, just get out of there.
so a thrust-centric approach is great when you're starting at a distance. It's a good way to probe your opponent now. So I'm going to see what his reaction time is by threatening that shallow target. And I might prompt him to try and respond then. And now he gives me input that I can work with. So if I, come on. Yeah, see, now he opened up just then when he went low. Something I was talking to others about sword and buckler yesterday was you have such a disadvantage going low. If you are able to get good posture and with your lean, understanding your hip movement, or removing your leg, slipping the leg, and remaining stationary, having the same amount of reach, controlling that high line is so much more beneficial in the long run. I mean, the best The best thing I can hope for when somebody's staying in the high line and I go for leg is giving them a Pyrrhic victory. Yeah, they lose an ankle, but I just lost my head. So, not only that, it is unsafe fencing. What did I do to do that? I showed a little bit of the back of my head, didn't I? And it's hard for me, like I'll try and look at you as I do the ankle. Yeah, no, I don't want to do that. So,
Well, he's a lot taller than me too, and I still just, yeah, it's not a great trade-off. You have to really know the situation.
so that's the gist of like what truly excels in those archetypes. What does a good Messer fighter do? They transition through all three as needed. If you're not good at one of them, practice that one. Because odds are you're good at least one of these three. If you have saber or side sword, hell, sometimes even rapier, you probably have a good cut-centric style. Even longsword. Longsword has a good tie into this because of the thumb grip that you can do. Whether it's back edge, spare, or just having your thumb grip and using your nagel or your ring guard to get good binds and protect yourself.
To be fair, I myself, I do not think that I am good at all three of these. I think that I excel at these two, and therefore it still allows me to deal with the cut-centric fighter. Because I can adapt from a grapple to a thrust and vice versa. So even just knowing two of them, you can counter the third archetype.
It's a real rock, paper, scissors. If I can make you think I'm going to throw a rock a bunch of times, I can eventually throw scissors. If he keeps doing this cut-centric guard, I mean, yeah, I have to think about it, but eventually he's going to throw scissors and it's going to beat me. Surely he wouldn't throw a rock again.
Good old rock.
That is the rock. I would say that is the paper, this is the scissors. Actually, I'm going to change it now because wrestler is Dwayne The Rock Johnson. Now, The Rock is never out.
Smell what you're cooking.
Scissors for cut, paper for thrust because,
Does anyone have any questions so far?
yeah. All right, so, go to body types. This is us going from the archetypes into threat analysis. Body types. What body type helps for each? I would say, of course, a tall guy like me, I'm going to have a better time thrusting. That said, JJ, once he has gotten that distance, his thrust game is actually a lot better. So there comes a point where the baby giraffe build doesn't help you anymore. So once I've made my thrust, and he wants to then do his own thrust, like I'm trying to like parry. So you have to go around basically. So I thrust past him.
Wait, go around?
Yeah, you have to do that. Well, say I make the thrust, and then I parry your cut. What are you gonna do now?
I'm doing that, to be honest.
But he's probably going to grapple my wrist like he just did, and he's probably going to stab me. The cut at that point, I'm binding with him in the parry. And I make it almost impossible for that cut to get here if I'm binding with him. So what he has to do is he has to grab and then get that point onto me to control the situation. He's using his two archetypes that fit him the best. It sometimes can throw people off when you're using one of these archetypes that doesn't necessarily get paired with your body type. So the cut also works out for me because I've done a lot of saber. Normally people don't look at me and think, oh, that's a wrestler, because I'm super tall. Somebody might look at this Sam over here, Sam number one, and see, he's
Sam Prime.
He's awesome built. So yeah, he probably did some sort of martial art. But no, when I was in wrestling, what I did was ankle picks, hand control. And they called me Cradle King because it was the only move I would really do once I got to the ground. The whole point of that being that I could use my arm length to get a hold on someone and then just roll with them until I put them on their back. Use what your body is good at. So someone with a shorter build, it's going to be harder for me to get at that head. Let's come over here a little bit more. So if you are seated low, it's hard for me to get that head. And if you're able to retract your hand, I might not even be able to get that low target. I can't even get down if I'm just doing cuts. I have to I have to make him think about something else in order to get there. So a shorter fencer actually has a better defense of their high line and makes it much harder for me to get low. But they're going to struggle in closing distance because I can simply do my passing steps. That's 2 steps, and I was just at that center line. Yeah, it sucks. It does. I know it.
JJ's no slouch with his footwork though.
I tell you what, I
have to
will
time
not.
it. I have to time it right though.
Okay.
If you watch how I'm fencing, whenever I'm egressing, it is when my opponent is in a transition, or if they make an attack and I do a parry or post speed, and a lot of times I am trying to just creep in as close as I can to make my opponent's distance irrelevant. So
Yeah, how do you do that creep? Show them that real quick.
well, how I do the creep is I get to a position or get to a distance where I make my opponent think I am in distance. So say am I in distance right now?
No.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I know, because of our fight. I've been watching it. I'm never letting it happen again.
Well, I let my opponent make their strike set. So they will swing. And they will miss. Then
That's a much harder recovery when you whip than it is when you hit.
they will swing, they will miss. They go, okay, I have to be closer. They get closer. They swing, they miss. They go, okay, I'm getting a little close to what I thought I need to be.
And now I'm overextended.
Yeah. But the closer that they are, where they do their first attack is usually where they feel most comfortable. That they go, this is where I feel comfortable doing my attack. And the more and more that you take that away from them, that they get to get closer, the more they feel out of their element. And it's just that little teeny creeping thought in the back of their head, I'm in danger, or I'm uncomfortable, and they get into their head, like just that seed of doubt that they're not really sure who's in control of the fight anymore.
Oh, I knew you were in control all that.
But it's just those little micro movements and just trying to stay calm and just let your opponent get into, like, fall into your trap, basically.
The more information you deny your opponent, the more information they are likely to give you.
Yes.
Because if I give him information, if I give him input, it's likely that he'll do something eventually to tell me what it is that I'm dealing with. Like if I don't know JJ at all, yeah, I've got to figure out how to approach him, and the only way I'll figure that out is if he gives me input to tell me which of these archetypes he's most comfortable with.
In a lot of my fighting, I just try and stay nice and calm and just use small footwork.
There's nothing nice about what you do to me.
Just try and stay calm and just really understand your distance and like Sam said, just do not give any intel back on your opponent and just cold face, you know.
Of these 3 archetypes, what is something I will not do with JJ? Anybody know? Which one? I will not grapple him. The wrestler, of course, knows this. I will never grapple JJ. Does anybody, other than Sam, want to answer that? Who can tell me why I won't do it?
Better center of gravity. He can cover all the lines and strike lower on you so much easier.
I was gonna go and say that he looks like he knows how to take it to the ground.
Anybody else?
He knows how, grappling would be like trying to move a boulder, and you would be like trying not to
Yes,
move a tree.
trying to move a boulder. He has a lower center of gravity. And this is like a greyhound trying to take on a bulldog. That doesn't make sense. If I get close to him and we're actually just like be violent, and I try to wrench him down, I can't do this. And I can't ankle pick him. Because all of this weight is right here. There's nothing I can do about that leg. So this is not the position I want to be in. I want to use my reach. However, I know that he, as a grapple-centric fighter, wants me to do the thrust. So what do I need to do? I need to get into a medium distance, about here, probably. And so I can snipe that hand, or I can feint at the hand and then cut somewhere else. Your long distance, your medium distance, and then your short distance.
It's playing to your little yard.
So, are there any questions to that so far? Okay. So, threat analysis, transitioning. When I make a cut and it doesn't work, I'm going to grapple. When I make a thrust and it doesn't work, I'm going to cut. If I make a grapple and it doesn't work,
Die.
and then I can't do the cut, maybe I'll do a thrust instead. Because I know that if I try to send a cut right now, the offhand's going to come up and it's going to stop me, right? But if I'm here and I simply retract and then stab, that works out a little bit better.
And I'm a big proprietor of the cut or the cut into thrust.
Yeah, see, he retracted that and then it's able to go into my chest.
Christian, one thing you didn't mention in this case when you're going in and grapples, or how do you feel about like a shoulder check or a Durchlappen? I know that technically a Durchlappen is rough against someone smaller than you, but
Do what decorates you the most. You want a shoulder check? You want a body check someone? Do it, man. I'm all for it. Hell, if you were in my ring yesterday and you have to listen to me rant about how I want people to wrestle, yeah, do it. Do it. I promise. Even if you don't know how to do it, the more you do, the better it will feel. You have to practice it. And you have to practice it by doing it. That's why I say the fourth archetype of reading too much doesn't help. If you're only reading the sources and you're not applying what you've learned, to hone those skills, you're going to remain stagnant in your skill level. So, transitioning. Find your own logic. Find your mental flow chart.
There's no hands.
Anticipate. So, when someone's in a specific guard, you know that certain actions are chambered, they're prepared. So if I'm here and JJ's there, he probably knows that I might snipe at that hand. If he's there, what am I expecting from him?
Oh, from here?
Wherever you want to rest.
Okay.
So from there, yeah, you might thrust at me. Go to your guard, you actually use them.
Oh, here?
Yeah, he has a cut chambered, and I see that offhand ready. I know he's getting ready for a cut and he's getting ready for a grapple, but every saberist knows that a cut can easily turn into a thrust.
Or some things that I even like to do, so if you go for like a thrust to my hand, this hand.
Oh.
You can do a push even, and then a cut.
So anticipation, reading your opponent. Rapid input. If my thrust doesn't work, cut. If my cut doesn't work, grapple. Find something. Or look, if my thrust doesn't work, cut. If my cut didn't work, cut again. It doesn't have to be any one specific thing. You don't have to keep following this logic chart necessarily. As long as you give rapid input, it'll give you a chance to maybe disengage and rethink your strategy, have a different approach. Because maybe they've got to cut and set your guard, but they only just want you to think that they're getting cuts, where they're really just trying to bind it and get a good thrust.
My favorite defense against the cut-centric fighter, when Sam's coming at me with all those cuts, is I'm just not going to engage.
Yeah, yeah. That also happens in the final. It's annoying. So patience. Have some patience. And finally, with patience comes the conservation of energy. Bruce Lee talks about conservation of energy. You know, be ready to just react, but don't spend too much energy because you've only got so much. Don't gas yourself. Don't tire out those muscles. Like if I stay out here the whole time, and God forbid I've got a heavy messer, why would I do this? One, I'm giving him information. I'm telling him what I want. Hell, I might even be showing him my reach. The less information you give, the more they will give. It's definitely a seesaw effect. So, how can we practice this without sparring? Since I'm being a little bit lazy this morning, we have leather Dusac trainers here, and JJ and I have developed a system for no gearing and no contact. When I was in Hamburg. I did go to Berlin after that. And in Hamburg, I was at Hammerburg, and I got to study with Dirk Hagedorn and Bjorn Ruther. And Dirk, I went through his class, And a lot of them were basic to intermediate, and possibly a couple other things that you probably call advanced. And of course, anybody who sends me, I usually have a pretty high win rate in tournaments, so I'm going through them, I'm sweeping them and sparring. And this is not, I'm not trying to talk shit about them. They're great fighters. And because I went to Berlin, I got to the level I am, or sorry, because I went to Germany in general, I got to the level I am now. I spent 3 months there studying with these guys. Deer comes up to me after this. And he goes, "Oh, you are good at this, yeah. But now take all this off." And I bring my jacket, my helmet, my gloves. Yeah, okay. And he hands me these mesh gauntlets. No, they're not the Mensura gauntlet, or goggles. I say gauntlets. I'm talking too quick. He hands me these mesh goggles, and they're not the Mensura goggles you might be thinking of for saberists in the mid-20th century. They were just normal, like, airsoft Milsim goggles. Which, by the way, if you do airsoft, don't ever wear mesh goggles. That plastic BB is going to splinter in that goggle and blow with you. But he hands me these, and he says, "Put these on, and now we're going to go again." And I told him, "Look, I've never done this. This is incredibly dangerous. You're putting a lot of trust in me, and I don't know if I should be doing this with you."
What weapon were you using here?
Longsword. He was doing a class on Lichtenauer. And his response to that was, "I want to do this with you even more now, because you know the danger present. You respect the weapon, and you respect me." And I said, "Okay." And so basically, we came to bind, and I had immediately a much greater appreciation for the sources, for Lichtenauer, and for the concept of self-defense in terms of historical European martial arts. So we came up, we're going to just pretend these are longswords for just a moment, and starting from the bind, trying to use very slight movements, because obviously that tip is a huge threat. Now, how do we keep ourselves from getting skewered, you might ask? Well, this is no contact. So what he said was, we're going to take the taller fencer, which of course was me, and I'm going to come to about a full lunge to almost his dominant side pectoral. And then I'm going to come back to a neutral stance. And essentially, I cannot move my feet forward whatsoever. They are anchored. And we're going to focus on the high line. When you have a thrust, say for instance, I push him aside, he knows that's going to land. When you do this, you know, especially when you're at a high level, like some of us are here. You know, because you've gotten stabbed so many times. You know what it feels like with just the jacket on. When you don't have that on, you don't have that safety net. If you're a trapeze artist and you no longer have the net below you, you sweat, you get scared, and you treat what you're doing with a lot more respect. These are leather. These are not steel. They are wood underneath. So if I show a thrust, I have to stop. It could break a rib, it could take out an eye, and if I hit that knuckle too hard, I break my friend's fingers. If I cut too hard at a joint or something, I could give him permanent injury. These are here so that we don't accidentally slice each other, and so that we can actually do a little bit of bind. The metal might bounce a little bit, but the leather doesn't do it so much. It actually has a little bit of stickiness to it, to reenact the bind. That's why they used these in the 16th century. So, JJ and I are going to come to about whatever guard we're familiar with. For me, it's the Berliner style of saber, which is simply coming to this standard guard we all know, yes, rotating it slightly forward and then tilting your tip toward the face. This is more French really than Berlin, but Berlin is also the least German part of Germany. So I will be doing this guard. JJ will be adopting some chambered grappler's guard that gets a great cut and assists him for that entry with his offhand to protect himself. So I might do that at the hand, and he might attempt to not actually touch me, but of course show me where I'm open to do that. What is my goal doing this? It is not to win. When you do no gear, you are with a partner, a sparring partner, and not a sparring opponent. You need to be willing to lose. This is where you find out where you are open. It's the entire reason we're not wearing masks, so that we can see everything now. And our opponent's going to help us with that. We don't need to go full speed. If I want to slowly make that thrust, he's going to show me, okay, so let's retract again. All right, so if I make this at me, I need to, or sorry, if I make this at you, I need to then go here if I miss, and that can maybe give a cut out as I do a disengage. Going here, that actually helps because, I mean, look, we both do this move. I do this move in longsword specifically, and saber. Not too often in Messer, but he's very good at that move. So if you do it at me, yeah, I need to then go here. I could possibly go under, and he gets to see all these angles that I can do and what he can work on. So let's just do this for real for just a moment, more like half to 2/3 speed, okay? That would have gotten me. Your parry can be quick. You don't have to slow down for the parry. So you can practice your actual reaction time a little bit. It's going to look a little bit like that. Okay? It's not super intense, at no point am I lunging, and you get to practice your lean a little bit. So making a cut at my head real quick. Again. Again. Throwing your parry into it. So every good parry blocks, threatens, and voids. As such, threat. I voided, I block, void, threat. If it's with a thrust, it's a block, threat, and void. So it's a good time to practice this. Of course, I did step to the side, didn't I? Stepping to the side is the only rule of thumb you can have for the forward movement. You have to be very, very careful about it. If you want to practice this with us after the lesson, before we go to the other one for, what was it again?
We'll call it. Fuck, I don't know.
Is it long term technically?
Breaking bad habits.
Hey, weapon agnostic. The goal is to try and work on a lot of these same things, having a conversation with your training partners to get into a mentality where you're comfortable low gear sparring.
If you want to do this with us before you go there, that's cool. But I recommend you go over to the next lesson and then come back if you want to learn more about this specific style.
We didn't plan this, but what they're doing feeds really well into what I want to talk about and what excites me.
It's meant to be.
It's fantastic.
Did we want to cover
And this game is better than the one I had.
It's also pretty dangerous. So.
we want to cover any other specific plays or anything?
For what?
Just for Messer, like what
We did talk a little bit about it, but you went and start us.
So just things that I look for. I'm just thinking back to like yesterday when I was fighting Mo. One thing that like really stood out to me is well, you kept kind of going into this cross.
Yeah.
And do you remember what I got you with?
Oh yeah, you just cut into it.
Yeah, the cut the thrust, looking right for the right pectoral. Oh, sorry, this is not the same one. And just going right for that right pectoral.
It's too slow, and then you could just come over with
Yeah.
the better initiative in advance.
Which is different than what I actually answered that guard with. Do the same.
Slow.
No. The same guard.
Just slower.
So, sorry. Well, let's go ahead and show them that move one more time. Yeah, you're right. I was going to give you back your Gunther, right? I'm not going to fly back to the higher with that.
There you go.
Close back on, of course. Okay. So, I'm taking the guard
Okay. And doing the cast right in here.
into that pocket.
Pocket.
Yeah, even if I get it out in time, it's going to go probably into my arm. And if it lays on my arm like that, JJ just has to do what?
This one, grab the sword.
Move your hand to your left. Hey man, when in doubt, do what decorates you the most. So, what I was wanting him to do there, go ahead and do the move again, cast it, and let's say, if it doesn't land the thrust itself, it just lays on my arm. One, they're probably going to call that as a cut, but if they don't, he could slice me, or he could also
I might want
go to here.
Yeah.
Put that hand down and then grapple my sword and land the thrust into my body,
Oh, God.
preventing me from doing anything in return.
He has your whole arm.
You owed him changing.
Healed.
Never! You suck! Fuck you! What I do when someone does this guard ahead is immediately, I'm actually in a thrust-centric guard.
Do you want me to cross over?
Yeah, sure, you can, because they're probably going to try and do that against the thrust, but I'll just simply prep into that. And what am I using here? I'm using the flat of my blade to protect my hand. And I'm really only putting my palm onto about that much.
I don't really have a solution for this one, guy.
It's not. It's why I don't like this guard too much. And also why in some of the Italian sources, it's probably covered in the German ones too, but Fiore, for instance, guardia and posta, these are things you do in movement. A guard might be somewhat stagnant, but we all know that you don't just sit in this the whole time. You transition through your guards. And longswords are different. And here, there, here, there. I don't sit, because if you sit, you're giving information. What guards don't give information? Probably just the low guard, or the chambered guard. That's very minimal tell, honestly, when you're just retracted and playing a distance game. What's another play that we should go over? I'm happy to hear, yes?
You could mime like the distance you would start in a tournament, like at, half 75% speed, like how your specific fighting styles would kind of come together and start the fight, like what information you're giving. How do you withhold information,
Great question. We're gonna do that right now, please.
Okay.
And we're not gonna be doing this very safe, so. I'm not on mom speed dial.
So is that like where we start? Is that the distance?
So yeah, we're gonna start say quite far away, okay? Here's how we approach.
Sorry.
No, that's good. It's alright, I have my new brace on, that's all. There was no contact, Greg. God. I wasn't gonna hit you. I had the blaster set to stun.
You ruined his career.
Did you see that this is really a Thomas Brown guy? Like we talked about this yesterday, right?
Sauntered right off.
He did what I told you guys to do.
Oh, taking center.
Was to take center. It didn't work here because JJ's comfort level. He wants that and can live in that space, which is rare in offensive. Most people, when crowded like that, will feel the pressure.
Yeah. And how do you, because you mentioned, if they're coming in hot, you just keep backing up. How do you prevent, going out? Like when do you decide, like, it's time for
There is a point where you go, I have to stand my ground and
Yeah.
just not give an inch. And if you are getting a lot, and then if you reverse it on them, that can also throw off your opponent a lot.
Rapid
Because
input.
they think, I'm in control, and you go, no, I am.
Yeah. So if he's go ahead and grab the deuce-sack right quick, and please don't hit me. Sorry, it's okay. I think they actually activated the heat pad a little bit more. So I thought we were supposed to hit. It's like that scene in The Incredibles where they crack his back. He's like, oh. Right?
Level up.
So if he's say he's pressing me, okay. So I have to give several actions that he has to respond to. And I was vocal as well. That might help a little bit. Don't forget, this is a psychological game as well. So, if you're, in Japan it's kiai, but in MLF it's swaying the judge, and in some tournaments in HEMA it's being a dick.
I guess one thing that we forgot to mention is doing the cut center is also a very good way to be the aggressor.
Yeah, and if you give an audible element to it, just like okay, hit there. I made it seem like I was going to really commit on that cut, and he parried hard, didn't he? And showed me that hand. And then when I cut the hand, it forces him to go there, and now I can feint to thrust. That's just one thing you could do. But of course, yeah, it's rapid input. Make them respect your weapon. Sometimes, however, if I'm going against a fighter that's not very proficient, and I've cornered them, and they're going to take my advice and try and do that, I'm actually waiting for you to do it, so I can actually parry and then finally finish the fight instead of bring you up and stop the action. So, sometimes you might hit a wall. It'll feel like that. The only thing I have to say that is you're going to have to practice so you don't encounter that issue.
I have a question back to that really practice where you are standing.
Yes.
And doing that, and you said that you can parry at full speed, but everything else is slower. I think like I feel like I do similar drills to that, but I don't do parry at full speed because I feel like it trains me in my mind to think that my parries are better than they are.
Notice how I did say should.
Okay, so there's options to try both.
Yes. Yes. So, I'm almost encouraging you to fail a little bit. I'm glad you caught that. I'm encouraging you to fail because there are times you might bite on a feint, and that teaches you something. That then teaches you, well, okay, so feint, cut to thrust. Okay, this teaches me if fail, then what? Again? Lean and bind to the other side where you're avoiding from. Because obviously, I will not react in time if I just stay stagnant. I have to move my body. Okay? No different than any other martial art, whether it's hand-to-hand, MOF, longsword, taekwondo, whatever you want to do. Move your body. If you stay there, you're a target. What's another move somebody wants us to go over? Anybody?
Yeah, I got a question. From my experience, so JJ's lesson plan was basically just what he did to me yesterday with free spar to a T. And I struggled figuring out the right way to approach when I knew he had a chamber and sword out. And he had mentally stripped me of my confidence that I could out-sword out him. So I was doing literally what you were doing, which is I sort of started in the sacred guard and had trouble getting in state.
I'm asking like the same question.
How would you approach that knowing?
I'm joking. How do I do it? In the past, I actually cut the fuck out that hand. Like I'm going crazy for that hand.
Yeah, he's not playing the same game as me.
Nah.
So I was hunting the messer hand with pokes, but you're talking like really cut.
Yes. So you'll see if you watch the gold medal match from Combat Con Messer. There's one point where I cut, and it's hard. Sparks go flying.
Yeah.
He has to. I'm doing what he's doing technically.
Yeah. I'm trying to pull back, but he is getting close enough that I have to.
Now, what line?
I
What
have to.
line am I cutting at here? Let's go ahead and rotate you this way real quick. And yeah, about slight angle so everyone can kind of see this mostly. I'm staying at this line.
No, that's actually exactly what I did.
I'm doing a left-right cut, but it's all in my upper left quadrant.
That's what I missed. Your cuts were attacking and staying in a defensive line. So
It changes the angle of attack, but stays in the same area.
Exactly, and I was thinking, how do I zone in into an opening which doesn't do what you're describing, which is you're harassing the zone with cuts, and whenever you bait, your cut is a parry, is the next cut is the next parry.
The way I like to think about it too is, his idea is to make me fatigue my mental confidence.
Yeah.
I need to be more resilient than he believes. And to choke up on that distance somehow, hiding that distance,
So
while I'm flirting cuts at his arm.
Okay.
So it's like what Sam will do if I'm here. He knows like the first one I can just pull back. The second one I'm having to use footwork. Because I can only pull my arm back so much, and now my body's exposed because he's still aggressive. So I know I have to throw my cut to just try and hit him, or just try and lock him up, deter him, and then maybe go in there for a push, or just hit him like enough to throw him off to escape reset.
So something that somebody might be noticing is when I make these parries, I'm ducking my shoulder a little bit into it. Why am I doing that? Well, it's one, so that he doesn't try to do a cut that's just like all his guard on here, to cut around to that shoulder, to there. So if I do this, I'm denying a little bit more of that target, and it preps me for the grapple right here. My shoulder's already there. Yeah. Then we wrestle. Right? I don't really want to be there, but let's go. Let's try this out right quick. Okay, so make a cut. See where I went? If I go straight for it, he's ready for it. I need to do a workaround, something unorthodox.
And my counter is to try and hug him. Like I gotta get as close as I can, so that blade is nullified.
Even if I try to take that sword from him, if I ditch line, it still doesn't work. So it's pretty much a bad place to be in general. I actually wanted them both. I was trying to trick you. Something else. Okay, so yeah, I twist like that for parries, but also it makes me a little more explosive for the cut afterward. It's like a wind-up doll in a way. That. So you can practice that on your own as well. That works for other weapons as well. Like longsword, I do the same thing where it's like that, or rapier, or side sword. Anything that has guts, you can probably do it with.
One thing whenever I'm trying to go for the leg, because the leg is a very, very tough target to go for. The way how I'm doing that is I am rarely selling that I'm going to do a high leg attack. Where I am presenting in a way, I'm making sure I'm looking into my opponent's eyes and reading their body language and just
Because
going.
he's up there, you're like, yeah, he's probably gonna cut my head, right?
Yeah.
No.
and yeah, you just want to kind of sell it.
Except earlier, I thought you just wouldn't do it because he's my friend, but.
It's gonna be a rough flight home.
It's actually really fun getting here. We got to talk to somebody who did professional cornhole. They were from, I believe, the state of Utah.
That sounds about right.
Yeah. She was wonderful, and she had never heard of HEMA, and was definitely giving us some insights.
She's good on precision, I bet.
Oh yeah, she showed me some video. We showed her ours, and yeah, we got to have a really great conversation on the way here. If you guys want to talk more about like what she told us about like how to get HEMA on ESPN, we'll talk to you guys then.
Is there anything specifically? Are you guys interested in like the grapples or? I'm trying to think.
One question.
You're at the hour mark?
Okay.
Yeah. Are there any final questions? Yeah.
I don't have a messer or a deuce-sack. Can I use a lot of this with like single arming sword?
No, and I'll tell you why. Because the arming sword does not have the nail, and it is longer, much longer than you might realize than a messer.
The balance is different.
Yes, it is different.
Really?
A messer. Let me grab my arming sword real quick, and I'll show you what I'm talking about here. I'll grab my
sword.
Oh no.
An arming sword fight might have some shared qualities in terms of an equal duel with arming swords. However, it's more just in chambering, to having chamber guards to make up for that lack of hand protection. So, like, I'm probably not going to be doing this when somebody's cutting at me here. I'm going to lose my fingers, right? But I can still do the stare. Also, when I made that stare just now, I hated it because it's nowhere near this. This is a much more agile weapon than this. You can see the how much slower it is, and I really tried for that. So, if we were if we were just doing arming sword duel, we've never really done this a whole lot. So, let's just change guards a little bit from distance. So yeah, if I was. Yeah, it feels awkward.
Maybe I think you probably could still do the casting.
Yeah.
Do I think you can
decently.
get some really unique skills by practicing with arming swords and then applying what you learn to messer? Yes. Because there are plenty of people that use a weapon to make themselves a niche fighter, and a weapon that honestly doesn't get a whole lot of love in this sport.
But if you don't have a messer and all you have is an arming sword, I'd say still try it out because you're still going to get the fundamentals with the footwork, the timing, distance management, a lot of the feinting you can still do. It's just some of the techniques, like Sam said, it's just not going to be the same.
One thing you could do maybe is, really any cut-centric one-handed weapon could teach you some good skills. Saber or single stick are what I would recommend because they're pretty mainstream, I would say.
No, so I don't want to break your train of thought, but I have been to workshops. We just use pool noodles with the shortened pool noodles because when you're strong, that pool noodle is not moving. When you're weak in the blade, you're everywhere, and it really it hyper accentuates your positioning with that. And then you don't need any gear, safety goggles at most if you're that reckless. But yeah, pool noodle.
Pair of dew sacks, or sorry, pair of leather dew sacks aren't a terrible investment.
Michigan only has 2 in the entire state.
I mean, leather dew sack's only $100.
Sounds like you have a culture problem
Oh,
over
Oh,
there.
all right.
They also hold up really well.
They don't wear out fast.
It's by no means a bad investment. It's a pretty good option, I would say. It teaches good saber, in my opinion. Like when I was getting ready for my gold match in Helsinki, I definitely was doing gear with Tom Kessler with those leather dew sacks. And if you watch that match, yeah, I'm definitely doing some unorthodox moves in terms of proper military saber.
How about one last thing we cover, how to utilize half-sword?
Sure, a little bit more about the half sword to make us a little bit unique here. So, 2 guards that I do for half swording. Here, like I showed you earlier, I also do this. How many of you have seen this guard before? Raise your hand. Okay, good amount of you. How many of you used this guard?
With a dagger?
With a dagger? Shut up. So, I need to practice this guard a little bit more. I would like to get more proficient with it because I think it's very pretty. But it gets me ready for a half sword here. Also gets me ready for a cut to the other quadrant here. And if I just want to keep it one-handed, cut to that quadrant again, it's just that. And I can throw this hand over here to send my balance that way. There's a reason why MOF fencers have their hands like so, to counterbalance when they make their lunge.
The way how I utilize half sword in the past is doing the aggressive thrust, with the grapple as a secondary action. So what I'm looking for is coming into cut, and if you say you try and counter cut me, and push me off on cut, not like that, but
Well, still, what happened just now? That's a Pyrrhic victory. Yeah, I might cut his hand, but he's going to stab me right in the chest. Not all scoring systems are going to reward that, but one is worse than the other.
I'm looking to cast, and then if it's opposed, then having it sure up. Mainly if you're attacking from this side.
Okay, so I'm just. But what did we just reenact from earlier? It was when somebody is keeping their sword all the way over here, and you can control the inside line.
I also like from here.
I hate that guard so much. My first tournament, he fucking injured me because my elbow guard was not tied to my jacket and had slid down to my forearm guard.
no.
This was in Sword and Buckler, and he just let it rip right into that elbow. And my family was watching. It's a good thing that I beat him in Saber beforehand and got gold in that, but I think that might have been the whole reason he didn't do that to me.
But yeah, for this guard, it gives you a lot of options, of course.
How do I answer that guard? I get ready to void and thrust if I can. And he wanted me to do that. So, grapple, beat, thrust. And now I don't even hardly know what to do. I tried to maybe do a back edge there. It's not going to work because he's going to go high and plunge it into me.
And that is just from here.
Good, I can rapid input, run away.
Yeah, so those are just some applications for kind of the half sword.
That's going to be the gist of it, guys.
Yep.
We got another class to go to. Check out what Mo has to teach y'all. It's going to be very valuable. Thank you for coming. If you have any other questions, don't feel bad about them. Go further, all right?